Hello everyone and welcome back to another Movie Nights movie review. Today we're talking about Dumb Money, directed by Craig Gillespie, someone who I'm a very big fan of.
Director of such films as I, Tonya and Cruella.
Yes, and I think he did the Pam and Tommy series as well, which I still haven't watched.
I don't know if he was, he may have produced it.
Yeah.
I don't recall.
He was involved. I know that.
Yeah, he was in it.
But yes, Dumb Money, this film is about the GameStop meme stock that happened during the pandemic that we were all around for, and I loved witnessing in real time when it was going on. It was pretty fun. And this movie has Paul Dano. The cast is incredible. Paul Dano, Shailene Woodley, Sebastian, Seth Rogen, Vincent D'Onofrio, Nick Offerman,
Pete Davidson, the standout of the movie.
This is true.
As in most movies he appears in for some reason.
That's true. But getting down to the brass tacks here on what we thought. Disappointing does not mean bad. This film by no means is a bad movie at all. It's actually a perfectly fine movie. It's perfectly good.
It's okay.
But I expected this to be not an all-time great. I expected this to be one of the best movies of the year, especially with the talent involved. And the trailers are incredible. Like, incredible. And yes, you shouldn't let expectation really dictate how you feel about a film, but there's no denying that the talent left a lot on the table with this film.
I think the trailer marketing was good, but also the entire movie is in the trailers.
That is true.
Now, granted, it is based on a real event, so there is that, but yeah.
Yeah. I think a part of the issue is it over memes. And if you watch the movie, you'll know what I mean. It uses these transitional sequences of like what seemed like real social media videos during the time this is going on. And it's a trope that's overused and it gets tiresome. And it's just like, okay, like I want to move on from this. It also just it lays the story out and it just relies on you being like, this is an interesting story, so this can continue. And it kind of loses momentum in that. And there are times throughout the movie where it does pick up. There's a lot to like about the film. But overall, for someone who makes films such as stylistically unique as I, Tonya, and where that story that I really couldn't really I wasn't like hugely fascinated by that story, but that movie made me fascinated by the story because of how well it was made and how that story was told. This movie, I was fascinated by the story, and the movie made me like the story less because of how it was made and how it was told. It's a weird flip that happened there.
It would have been beneficial if they kind of took that I, Tonya style where they had those fake interviews to the camera as well. I think getting into the psyche of the characters we were watching would have been a lot better.
Yeah. And there's a double-edged sword too.
Yeah.
Because something that I liked in the movie is if you follow several characters throughout this whole process of the GameStop stock thing. And each character, to the movie's credit, does feel like a real-life person, a real character going through this situation. You buy it. You buy it through and through.
I'd say especially America Ferrera.
Yes.
Yeah.
The problem, though, is since the double-edged sword, since you're spending time with these characters, you're spending less time with our lead character. And while they do emotional beats in the film, and there is some subtext underlying as to why he's not giving up and why he won't do this, but you really got to search for that answer. It's not really given to you. Because there's less time spent with this character, you kind of feel shorthanded by the emotional stuff that could have come with him and his family dynamic. Because I feel like there was a lot more story to dive into there that has to be overshadowed because you have these other stories to do. And yes, this is based on a book, technically, also, and I haven't read the book. Maybe these other characters are in it, but I feel like if they are, that could have been adapted better.
Well, you had to do a lot of reading in this movie as well,
That's
so you
true.
basically read the book. And there's nothing wrong with text appearing on the screen. Like, I did like the gimmick. That's what it is. We'll call it that. The gimmick of like everyone's net worth, and then at the end you see it again. But in between, there was so many updates and so many dates and so many follow-ups. I was like, I could have just picked up the book and read it.
Yeah. There's also a couple instances in this film where I genuinely, and I rarely say this. I think I said it once last year. Very rarely will I ever use the phrase miscast, because it's not really something that I think people use that correctly. I think every performance in the film is good, but that doesn't mean they were right for the part. Two specifically. Paul Dano is one of the best actors working today. I felt he was miscast in the role. The only reason I say that is because the whole movie, I saw Paul Dano. I didn't see who he was playing. And typically for Paul Dano, it's never the case. He normally chameleons into roles. Yeah. And I didn't see that here. The other one is Seth Rogen. He gives a great performance in the film, but the whole movie I just saw Seth Rogen. I didn't see anybody else. To everyone else's credit, especially for how little her character has to do, I thought Shailene Woodley knocked it out of the park for her role. I thought Vincent D'Onofrio and Nick Offerman, I thought Sebastian Stan was really fucking good.
They were very funny. I was wondering if they were going to address the Robin Hood stuff because they didn't really give that away in the trailers. Yeah. Well, maybe they did. I wasn't familiar with the characters' names.
Yeah. Pete Davidson, like you said earlier, steals the fucking movie. He's incredible in it. He's amazing. And even when he has to he doesn't get overly emotional, but even when he has to be not that character that Pete Davidson typically plays, he does well.
He does. You know, they gave him the eye drop, tear drop. Like you could see, like, oh, he can't do that on demand. Yeah. But I think those beats worked and their dynamic worked. I just wish more of the movie was him and Paul Dano because they're brothers in it. They're
I agree.
Dynamic.
And maybe I think the reason he was miscast is just because we didn't spend enough time with him. Yeah. I can't emphasize enough that I didn't feel like I spent enough time with the lead character. Mm-hmm. Now, positives on the movie. Like I said, to make it seem like I didn't like the movie. The movie's fine. I think it's perfectly fine. The third act of the movie I thought was the best part. I thought the movie ended very strong, personally. I think that there are sequences in the movie where they do a great job of building suspense without you realizing in the moment that they're building suspense. Like, I won't give it away, but throughout the film, as people gain from this stock, there are characters in their lives telling them, like, all right, this is great now, but you should cash that out now. Yeah. And even you as an audience member are kind of caught up in the to the moon aspect of it, to the point where you don't realize the suspense that's building from those early moments until it pays off. And you're like, that was good, like what they were doing there. There's a side character in the film, and America Ferrera's friend, I don't know the actor's name, but he did a great job. They did a great job in the movie. And that character does a lot of the suspense building without realizing it's suspense building. Yeah. And I thought that worked really well in the movie as well. And the story overall is interesting. I
liked Anthony Ramos' storyline.
Yes.
With one of the
Dane
most...
DeHann! Sorry.
I was going to say, one of the most weirdest cameos that I was not expecting in a movie. It was a reveal, and I was like, I don't think that many people know him.
Yeah,
for it to
That's
be
why I felt comfortable saying
a reveal. Yeah. I think ultimately the movie, I think I said it briefly in our out-of-theater reaction. I'm going to butcher the wording again, but the movie came out way too soon and not soon enough for this movie. You know, I've seen a lot of people comparing it to The Big Short, not in terms of quality, but just style. It's about an event that happened.
Yeah, the stock market,
Yeah. And I was alive for the 2008 housing crisis. I had no idea what was happening, you know. Watching that movie back, I was caught up. I understood everything that they were talking about because the movie took the time to explain it. This movie kind of felt like, you were there. Yeah. Like, watch it again.
It does kind of feel like that.
We're reliving it. And it's like, I'd like to know more about stock. I just saw the stock go up, but why? Yeah. You know, like, I don't even think the movie explained what shorting a stock is, which could be lost on a bunch of people.
It's like a throwaway line.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I feel like having to explain that, you know, would have helped. But I also think 10 years down the line, like with Big Short, I don't think anyone cares about this story. Yeah. Which I think was also the issue for it. Yeah. And it definitely feels like this won't age as well. It felt like a very unapologetically modern movie. I mean, modern for 3 years ago when the thing actually happened. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. But yeah, and I think where my disappointment comes in is just, I love Craig Gillespie. And he blew me away with Titania. He really fucking blew me away with Cruella. That movie had no right to be as good as it was. And I was so excited when he was going to make this movie, and maybe like my hype train got into it. Yeah. And like I said, this is not a bad movie. Like, honestly, if this movie was made by no one, like I didn't know who they were, and I watched it, I'd be like, oh, that's pretty good. I think where my feelings about it come in really does play with expectation of how good the movie could have been, which I do think there was a lot left on the table. And I don't even think that's all his fault. The script was rough at times. And again, also we've seen actors in these movies give fantastic performances in the past. Yeah. And it felt very quick, phoned in. Because also none of the characters really interacted. Like it was all these isolated stories, and I didn't feel that sort of connection. Yeah. Yeah. And that's fair. And like I said, I like the movie. It's perfectly fine. But I was hoping to get a lot more out of it. It was more surface level than I wanted it to be. And I think that's kind of the biggest downfall of the film. But there's nothing atrocious about it either. You know, it doesn't do anything majorly wrong. Care to revisit it. And I will. I think I'll revisit it. I don't think it'll crack my top 15. Maybe not. But
again, I don't think it's a bad film. It did make me want to see a documentary about what happened.
Yeah, I think that'd be more interesting, or read the book.
Yeah.
Well, is the book fictional, or is it...
No, it's based on the situation.
Okay. No, I meant like the characters we meet. Like,
I don't know.
We don't know if they're real people.
Yeah.
Or...
No, I'm pretty sure they're real people.
Oh, yeah, because at the end it had the...
It had what happens to them. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. But anyway, guys, what did you guys think of Dumb Money? Maybe you loved it, maybe you hated it. Let us know down in the comments what you thought. Thanks always for watching.
And did you invest in GameStop? If so, what did you gain?
Yes, let us know in the comments, and we'll see you on the next review.